Evening, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest opposition preview show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Before we welcome on our special guest, here is a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, after our very frustrating 1-1 draw against Peterborough at Dean Court, we face the next of our triple header against sides down the bottom. But should they really be down the bottom? We face Derby County, who of course were deducted 21 points, but have shown real fight to try and stay in the championship this season and have done really well with some great results, including beating us earlier on in the year. To preview the game, it is a pleasure to welcome back Derby fans' favourite and a friend of the channel, Jake Barker. Hello, Jake. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very, very good. Albeit, after what was a dreadful result last night against Peterborough, going 1-0 down. Jack Marriott scoring to put them 1-0 up, and then Ryan Christie actually scoring a really, really good goal. But really, we should be putting teams like that to bed. But moving on to Derby, and of course, it's been an absolute horrid season off the pitch. However, the side have shown some real heart, some real desire, some real passion. And if you give yourselves those 21 points back, you'd be on 45 points and quite clear of the relegation zone. You've had some great results as well recently. Do tell us a little bit about the heart that the side have shown, considering everything's been against them.
It's just been really impressive. And I mean, you've seen it from the first minute and the first game of the season that we lost a lot of players in the summer. We lost players that made big differences, players that we signed on big money, players that were meant to make big impacts. And we lost a lot of them. And we had to bring through young players. And those young players and the free transfers that were brought in have fought and given absolutely everything. And I mean, you can just see it on the pitch every time we play. Even when we lose, every player is giving absolutely everything for 90 minutes. And when you look at our team and you look at, 7 or 8 players every single game came through the academy. We've only got, I can't remember how many it is now. Now we've lost Kamil Yusrat, but I think we've got 8 players or 9 outfield players that aren't from our academy. The rest of the squad's from the academy. And, for the coaching staff to have instilled this mentality of go out there and, as you said, play with your heart on your sleeve, give everything for the club. It's just been unbelievable. I mean, as you said, it's been a horrible, horrible season, but to see the players give everything the way they have on the pitch has been a really, really nice thing to see with everything that's going on.
And Wayne Rooney, Wayne Rooney feels like he's been around for years, but he's still relatively young as a manager, and the way he's handled the situation at Derby is phenomenal. Considering that there was murmurs that he might go to Everton and be the manager, which Everton have got tons of money, and I guess you wouldn't have begrudged that, but how he's handled it, how he's stuck by his players and the side, he deserves a lot more, and so do the players, and so do the fans, and we'll come on to that. But what Wayne Rooney, give us a bit of a lowdown on how he's done.
I think it's quite interesting because when he took over, there was a lot of concern because after lockdown and after everything had happened because of COVID, he wasn't the same player that he was before COVID. When he first signed, unbelievable, genuinely probably the best player I've ever seen at Derbyshire, as you probably expect, because it's Wayne Rooney, England's record goal scorer, Champions League winner. And he wasn't really old. He's younger than Curtis Davies, who plays for us now. So we expected big things, and he delivered the big things. But after COVID, he really struggled, and he never looked the same player. He looked massively off the pace, and I think it's not unfair to say he was part of the reason why Philip Cocu ended up getting the sack, because the whole team was built around him. And he was rubbish, and we looked rubbish. So when Cocu was sacked and he stepped in as manager, there was immediate apprehension of, that's interesting. The manager's just been sacked, and the man who may partly be at fault for that has stepped straight into the job. And maybe that first season, him staying with us was a little bit maybe out of guilt and carrying on. We weren't getting results. We were losing almost every single game. We had a run of 2 wins and 17 at the end of last season, and it just looked hopeless. And that was with all players like Martin Waghorn and Matt Clark, and players that now play for sides at the top of the table and played for us when we were top of the table. But this season, it's been completely different. He's brought in a couple of players, dependable players, for nothing, on less than $4,000 a week, because that's all we're allowed by the EFL. We were allowed three signings for a season in a summer where we lost about 8 or 9 players, probably even more than that. And those players have come in, and we signed players on short-term deals, and they've given everything. And he's managed to get the absolute best out of every single player that's played for us. I mean, if you look at the results we've got and the games that we've played, Tom Lawrence, who's been so inconsistent over the last couple of seasons, all of a sudden he's the main man now. 9 goals, 5 assists. He's been unbelievable, and he's probably one of the sole reasons why we're in this position. But he's got the best out of players like Max Bird, Lee Buchanan, Jason Knight, Luke Plange. Luke Plange hadn't even made his debut by November last year. Now he's our starting striker every week. That's the sort of situation that we're in, and he's managed to get the best out of everyone. And I had doubts, and I think a lot of people had doubts at the start, especially when we were on a run where we probably couldn't buy a win if we wanted to. Now it's a completely different environment, and I think having the fans back and Rooney's got everyone on side, it's just been great. And I never thought I'd say a season where we've got a 21-point deduction, we've been in the relegation zone all season, has probably been the most enjoyable season in about a decade.
And you mentioned there the fans, and the fans have been phenomenal and have been a real credit to your football club. And it's really the blueprint that what should be happening at every football team across the country. But you've had a real part to play in this as well, because you've recently won the Fan Hub Award for February, and you raised 32,000 for Rams fans that couldn't actually make the game or afford to go to the game. So really congratulations on that, Jake.
Thanks, mate.
Excellent. Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant. And considering everybody is needed at Derby because of the horrible situation that Mel Morris has put you in. I've been very, very vocal. You've seen that. The Derby fans have seen that. And I think it's completely disgusting what has happened. Firstly, the Middlesbrough and Wickham situations, and how they were really holding the noose over Derby's head, when luckily the Middlesbrough situation has gone away now. So Mel Morris has sorted that. But the whole administration has been badly handled with Quantama. There's no real thought for the fans. Can you give us a little bit of an update of really what is happening? And, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be sorted very, very soon. And you'll get back to an even keel.
Well, first off, what you mentioned before about raising the money, Derby County Community Trust. I don't know if Bournemouth have a community trust. I'd assume they
We
do.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So the community trust were great, and I've just worked with them, and it's showing the proof that like everyone's sticking together. And what you were saying about the fans of how it's showing how fans should be, and they've been great, and they've been working with supporters on so many different initiatives and raised so much money. So I think a massive credit has to go to them. With regards to the less fun stuff with our ownership, it's just been a really strange situation. I mean, the Middlesbrough stuff wasn't great. I think it took Mel Morris obviously coming out of the woodwork and paying it off, and it's really frustrating that it sort of got to that point before Mel stepped in. He could have stepped in a lot earlier than that and just sorted it out. And so it's a bit weird. The Wickham one, I don't think that was ever officially submitted as a complaint, or as a I don't know what the word is. I can tell I don't work in finance. They never actually officially put in a complaint about it, or a lawsuit. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
They never actually put that forwards. So I don't know whether that'll affect us actually with regards to getting a preferred bidder, which is good news. But then obviously whoever does come in is going to have to shoulder that when it does inevitably come to the forefront. But it's just been really weird. And as you said, like Quantuma haven't really done the best job they could have done, but they've also been dealt an atrocious hand, and it's easy to forget that sometimes, I think, because I mean, if you look at the situation that we're in, the amount of creditors we had, the amount of debt we had, the amount of problems we had, and then when you've got people obviously putting bids in and stuff like that, having to sort through all of that sort of stuff, there's a lot of work to do. But at the same time, they definitely could have communicated it better. And I guess for Bournemouth fans watching, sort of to explain kind of how it's been, it's been like when you listen to a game on the radio when you're driving, and you have bits where it cuts off for a couple of minutes. That's what it's been like, where we'd have, a couple of minutes of complete radio silence, or in our case, about a month of radio silence. Then all of a sudden, a tiny bit of info will come out and you'll be like, oh, that's great. And then it'll go dead silent again. And then that's just been how it is. And I mean, until today, we hadn't heard from them in probably a month or so. So it's just a weird situation. And, as you were saying, it's been really strange. We had to prove that we could finish the season last week, ended up selling Kamil Juszczyk for about $1.5 million to a team in America just to finish the season. And I mean, when you're in that sort of situation, it really makes you think like, wow, we are, really teetering over the edge. And I think we'll be very, very grateful when someone comes in, because it's certainly been a long 5-6 months of administration so far.
The thing is, the way I look at it is, firstly, the EFL should have stepped in earlier. And this is my big argument. I've been very, very cool on Twitter about it. They should have stepped in and should have done something about Mel Morris. Of course, he sold Pride Park to himself, hasn't he? Effectively. Surely the best thing he could do for the club and the fans that he was serving is surely hand that back.
I know. That's what you'd think, but it's massive sums of money, isn't it? And I mean, £80 million he paid for that. It's a lot of money. And to be honest, in that situation, if I was him, I don't know whether I would, because it is a lot of money at the end of the day. Even though he's obviously run us into the ground, ironically costed us even more than that. But yeah, I do think that, I don't know what the holdup is, but if that is the holdup, you'd at least hope he wouldn't ask for that much. You'd hope that he wouldn't ask for, talking upwards of 20-30 million pounds, because at the end of the day, it's him that's put us in this mess. But then when you think about it, he's willingly put us in this mess. So is he going to willingly be nice to us and help us out? It's one of those things, isn't it?
I could see from the start, when he first took over, and going back to the playoffs and the playoff final, I can see what he was going for. He was going for the dream, and a lot of teams have gambled on that. You've had Sheffield Wednesday, you've had Reading. There's loads of teams, and I don't know how much of it you can believe, but supposedly there's 3 other teams next season should they stay down, which they all look like they will do. Who could also be drawn into points deductions and financial difficulties and fall foul of it. But it just feels like that Derby have been given such a bad hand by the EFL, who should have stepped in and said, look, this has got out of control. When Mel Morris was in charge, before he put the club into administration, and it should have happened long, long ago. With Quantama and how they've dealt with it, again, it's appalling that they haven't given enough information. It's just been dragged out, hasn't it? How long have the club now been in administration? Because it feels like it's been ages.
It was October that we went into administration, so it's about 5 months.
Yeah.
6 months.
So it's really, they've had plenty of time to actually resolve this now. But looking at the situation on the pitch, moving away from all that dire stuff, Jake, because I'm sure you're fed up of talking about it. And, I am right behind. To be honest, it would be a great story for Derby to actually stay up this season. It would be a great story because after everything you've had come up against you, how likely is it that you can complete that dream?
It's very dependent on form. I mean, we've got 10, 11 games left of the season. We're going to be reliant on Reading playing like a Paul Ince team. We're going to be reliant on we're going to be reliant on us pulling stuff out the bag. What you were saying about Mel Morris before. I mean, he actually fully bought the entire club the year after the playoff final, and then we went and spent like 25 million on players. And you look at our team now, and I'd probably prefer every single player in our team now to every player that he brought in then. I think it's hard. It's a really hard one. I mean, I've had a few people ask me, and it's, can we stay? I mean, yeah, we can. But it's whether we've got it in us, and we're relying on a lot of players, especially the older players. You got Curtis Davis played every single game this season. He's 36, 37, and you can see in the last couple of games he's starting to feel it a little bit, and we're getting into the closing ends of the season. And are we going to have a couple of players that are feeling it? We've got quite a lot of players that are young players that aren't used to playing week in, week out, twice a week, championship level football. So it all depends on whether Tom Lawrence keeps carrying us. It'd be nice if he did that. And whether the young players and the older players can just stay fit, because we've had it recently. I mean, I don't know if you saw, it was ridiculous. We had like 3 red cards in 4 games, and 2 of them were really, really contentious. And we had a lot of injuries all at once, and all of a sudden we've got no squad. It's like we're in that situation. Like last game, I mean, we played Barnsley, and we played a young lad called Malcolm Ebioi, who's he signed and was playing under 18 football, not even under 23 football, under 18 football, and now he's started. So it's sort of like that's the situation we're in. So we've just got to rely on these young players to pull it out of the bag. And my heart says I reckon we can do it, but my head says it's going to be a really, really long 11 games.
It's going to be tough, but you did beat Barnsley.
We did, yeah. I mean, that was helped by the fact that they were pretty bad. But I think it was great because, Lawrence came back. He'd been out for 3 games, suspended. And you could just see the change in the team straight away. Every time he picks up the ball, things happen. And, he's the main man, as you'll know, from earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And Ravel Morrison decided that it was time to turn into prime Ronaldo. and just play. I've never. It's probably. I've said this a lot this season. That's probably one of the best individual performances I've ever seen. Like in a Derby shirt. Like he's been so inconsistent and played really deep, and then he plays in attacking midfield, and he just ripped Barnsley to pieces. He was everywhere, and I think it's one of those where we need those sorts of players to keep performing for us to get results.
And you have been beating the teams around you. You did beat us earlier on in the season as well, which, to be honest, Derby didn't look like a team that was down there. And I've said this all along, Derby are in effectively like a false position because the squad have given their all. There's lots of squads that you could say in and around the relegation zone that haven't. Let's be honest, Barnsley have dropped from being in the playoffs to being in the bottom three. Peterborough are struggling because the team that they come up with. Reading are another one that are a complete basket case of a side, and it just seems that they lost 8 on the bounce before 2 wins, which, to be fair, if they didn't get those 2 wins, you'd be looking a lot happier, wouldn't you?
We'd be right up there. Yeah, and I think when you mentioned, I mean, when we beat you earlier in the season, I was just thinking then of the team that we had that day. Since that day, we've lost Kamil Juszczyk, we've lost Graham Shinney. Who else have we lost? Phil Jagielka. 3 of the players that started that day gone, and we've not brought anyone else in. And I think that sort of sums up, how it's been for us this season, because we played you, and as you said, we didn't look like a relegation side, and we just kept losing players, and yet we're still doing it. And I think that's the most, without what's the word, like tooting our own trumpet sort of thing. It is impressive. It is impressive to still be fighting despite having. Some people have coined it quite affectionately "Children and Old People FC," and that's our team at the minute, because that's literally what it is.
Well, I'm sorry to mention their name, but Nottingham Forest fans very recently accused Bournemouth of postponing our own game because it was because of the Storm Eunice. It was really bad down here. The Forest fans turned around and said, "No, it's because you haven't got enough players." But we are probably the polar opposite to what you're experiencing, and we've probably got 2 squads that could play week in, week out in this division.
Oh, don't rub it
in. But we're not in the greatest of form ourselves. We've mentioned the Peterborough game. We'll try and forget that, even though, yes, we didn't get beat. But we've also had fairly lucky wins against Stoke and Blackpool. And they were wins when we were behind in those games. Blackpool, we left it extremely late. Stoke a little bit earlier, but still should be doing something before that. And, well, get beat by Preston again. That happens every time. We don't beat Preston, Jake. That's weird. Reading can, but we can't. Make head and tail of that one. But do you think that presents its own difficulties because Wayne Rooney has been playing a side and they know that they are going to be playing on Saturday? Do you think that they're prepared better than maybe our players, where there is that bit of chopping and changing, where Scott Parker does seem a little bit one-dimensional? There's a lot of criticism for him. Do you think the pressure's getting to us? And do you think there's just Derby have got nothing to lose?
Yeah, well, with regards to Forest and you calling the game off, I've been to the City ground, I've seen the state it's in. You can tell they don't really care about safety. But with regards to sort of, I think it's one of them where with regards to Scott Parker and your team, and you're under a lot of pressure naturally because you are arguably one of the best teams in the league. I mean, not even arguably, you are the second best team in the league
Yeah,
on paper. So that pressure is going to be there. And I mean, with the signings that you made in January, which were absolutely ridiculous, and every
yeah,
single one of them will walk into our team, um, it, it's a little bit like all the pressure's on you now. And it did feel a little bit like with all those signings, it was a little bit of a gamble, and you were desperate. You had to make sure that you got up to the Premier League. So I can see why you'd probably feel that pressure a little bit. I can see why some of the players might feel it because you're looking at the teams around you. I mean, Huddersfield, how on earth are they in that position? No
yeah.
disrespect to Huddersfield fans, but we've played you twice, and I mean, it took a deflected goal in with 5 minutes to go for you to beat us with 10 men for 90 minutes. So it's one of them where the league's at its weakest it's been in a really, really long time. And you've got a really, really strong team. And I think sort of putting that together has really put the pressure on you to sort of pull away, hasn't it? Um,
Yeah.
I've just got to hope that, that pressure's there and we go into it all guns blazing. I mean, we've won 2 games away from home all season. We are rubbish away from home. So I'd still probably say you've got a good chance there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see why the pressure. I mean, I
Mhm.
suppose if you're 20, 30 minutes in and you're not really creating many chances and fans start getting a bit restless and getting on the players' backs because obviously you're expected to win every game, I can see why it might have a little bit of a detrimental impact on the players. So I don't know. I feel like I think you might be right with the pressure thing. I can imagine with 10, 11 games to go that the fact that you're not far away like Fulham are, the fact that you're not in Fulham's position might be in the players' heads a little bit.
And we've had a build up of games, and one of the Bournemouth fans, and I saw this on Twitter the other day, turned around and said, and this was before the Peterborough game, we've got to get 9 points from the next three. And let's be honest, I thought Peterborough and Reading, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, 6. But Derby, you know, you are fighting for your lives. You've shown it all season long. And the players and the fans and the management have been an absolute credit to your club. And I've got massive respect for what you've done. And you never know. You never know. That it would be a beautiful story, wouldn't it, if you did stay up? And how do you reckon it's going to go? Considering we've got the pressure and the fans aren't particularly happy with Scott Parker after the Peterborough game. Derby, you've beaten. You won the other night against Barnsley. Ravel Morrison's had an outstanding game. He's shown he's back to his best. The best if you watched years ago and what he did for Manchester United as a kid, um, he's back to that. Um, how do you think it's going to go? Have you got that glimmer of hope that you could get something from Dean Court?
You've just got to hope so. I mean, we haven't won away in a really long time now. It was Stoke away. I can't remember if it was end of 21 or start of 22. So we've not won away in quite some time, and our away games sort of seem to go one of two ways. We roll over, lose quite easily, and lose 1-0, or we play really, really well, miss loads of chances, and lose 1-0. So it's one or the other with us, really. And I think you've got a lot of quality players, and we seem to struggle a little bit away from home. So I think, this is another one. I remember last time we did this, I said, my head says we'll lose and my heart says we'll win with a Bulldog hat trick. And that's 3 goals, and we scored 3 goals. So what I am going to say is, I reckon, again, I think we'll really struggle to get something from the game because you are a quality side, and we struggle away from home. But I can just really hope that we take the form. We've got that extra preparation time. We've sold out the away end. I hope all of that can sort of carry us to a good result. What do you reckon? What are you feeling?
I'm going to be completely honest, and I think with the fight that you've shown, and now that it's coming to the business end of the season, I do not agree that with the person that said, "Oh, we get 9 points." I actually think you're going to beat us.
Oh no, you just don't want to jinx it.
Oh, well, yeah, I could turn around and say, oh yeah, we'll win 3-0 and get beat, but I actually have got a horrible feeling that you're going to beat us because there is that pressure, there is that expectation now at the club. We are one of the smallest clubs in the league, but everybody thinks that we've got a divine right to beat everybody and else, and I don't see that.
Yeah,
And I think Derby, showing the heart, if they manage the game right, and I'm sure Wayne Rooney's done that all season. He's not been able to beat certain teams because of injuries, red cards. Things have got tough. But if he manages the game right, I think we're going to be a little bit stuck. Um, I think we'll get 4 points out of these games because I think we'll beat Reading.
yeah,
I think we'll beat Reading, which should probably be good for you, but
yeah. Please do.
yeah. But I'm very concerned. I think and plus we got the fixture backlog.
Yeah, that's the
We
hard bit, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got 13 games remaining, so there is going to have to be a little bit of mixing things up. But at the same time, it's these it's this run now that because our games at the end of the season are going to be difficult, or they look difficult on paper. So we should have beaten Peterborough the other night. We should beat Reading. We should be getting some decent results around now, and that we've struggled to beat Stoke, we struggled to beat Blackpool, and of course got beat by Preston again. You know, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about this one, Jake. But it's been an absolute pleasure as always to have you on here. And by all means, I really hope after watching this video as well, as many Cherries fans do share the Save Derby County logos, because people power and the amount of support and hard work that's gone in by the Derby fans. Surely it's time to be rewarded for that now, Jake, isn't it?
Yeah, and first off, yeah, it's been a pleasure coming on, and I almost said it'd be good to see you next year, but it wouldn't for you.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty awful news for you if we were doing this next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, and yeah, I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people have put a lot of effort in. You've got a lot of individuals that have put a right shift in. You've got a lot of groups that have put a lot of work in just to help other fans, help other people, keep people updated, and just try and do something that makes a difference. I think that's the main thing. And I think, yeah, if anyone was watching this, if they were going to take anything from it, just try and do what you can, because you don't know how long your club's going to be around, and you got to make the most of it whilst it's still here. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much, mate.
That's not a problem. And from a club that's been in this situation a couple of times, albeit in the lower leagues, and probably not as drawn out as the situation at Derby. I really do hope that the best possible outcome is for the club, for the fans, for the manager. Hopefully, Mel Morris will also give back Pride Park to an extent. So. Yeah, it'll be. I think it's the least he can do after what the problems he's put Derby in, and fingers crossed. This will get sorted before any more deadlines, and hopefully as well, because we haven't mentioned them, the EFL sort themselves out, because they have been as much to fault as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, the less said about that, the better. I think. Yeah, I know people have said that there's an agenda, and I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be one of them that goes, they haters, but they've certainly not helped. They took Middlesbrough side straight away. They took Wickham side straight away. They've taken every side that isn't our side, I think, for the entire journey. So yeah, they've not been great, but I think a lot of clubs, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that a lot of clubs aren't happy with the way it's been run, and I think I wouldn't be surprised to see change in the near future, because to let the amount of clubs that have fallen apart fall apart is it's not a great look for them at all, is it?
No, it's not. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if you don't stay up this season, you'll be back sooner rather than later. But you never know. You might play us in the FA Cup. And this would be I guess this would be the dream. You might play us in the third round of the FA Cup and not have to go through round 1 or 2. There you go. There's something to hold on to.
Let's hope so. Let's hope
Yeah.
so.
Well, it's a pleasure as always, Jake. And all the details about how Cherries fans can also get involved as well in supporting the efforts from the Derby fans. And I really would suggest everybody, considering where our club have been, gets involved in that as well. And all those details will be below in the description. And thank you, everybody, for joining me on this opposition preview special. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button below to be alerted to all the videos that we do. Please do also check out the links with regards to Derby County's appeals as well. And hopefully, as a football family, we can support them and get them through these difficult times. And hopefully, fingers crossed, some new owners as well. Do check out the interviews that we've done previously with Harry Redknapp, Efan Akuku, Steve Fletcher, Steve Cook. There's many more on there as well. And also do check out our previous opposition preview shows as well. And do remember to hit that subscribe button. It does mean a lot to us. Until the next video, up the cherries, and I'll see you then.